Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Sorry, Chris, are we good? Okay, my bad. I was like, oh, let's go. Yeah. We should make sure we're actually live streaming here. All right, welcome to our Williamsport City Council meeting. It's Thursday, April 11th. We're in Trade and Transit 3. Please rise for the invocation by Councilman Eric Biter, followed by the flag salute and roll call.
Lord, we pray for your wisdom, as always. Help us satisfy the needs of our community during this meeting. Strengthen us as we make tough decisions, and please guide us so that we can be productive, effective, and decisive. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to item 3, approval of city council meeting minutes from March 28th, 2024. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any comments or questions related to the minutes? Here you see none. Mrs. Frank on the motion for item 3.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mr. Biter.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, Mrs. Katz is online also.
Oh, Mrs. Katz.
Yes.
All right, motion passes 6-0. Item 4, limited courtesy of the floor. We've had no requests. We'll move to item 5, a public hearing for conditional use at 1250 Almond Street. I need a motion and a second to do that, or I just open it. I can't remember open it. Okay. I will open the public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to speak in the affirmative for the public hearing conditional use? And Gary, sorry, is there anything you need to kick us off with?
Just add, in accordance with the Pennsylvania Municipal Planning Code and the city's ordinance. The application came before for a conditional use. They're requesting to put an adult training facility within the R2 zoning district. The address is 1250 Almond Street. It will be inside the church. And again, at this time, it is a requirement to have a public hearing, and then I can address the conditional use itself later.
All right, thank you, Gary. Would anybody like to speak in the affirmative of the conditional use? Okay. Would anybody like to speak against the conditional use? Okay, any final comments, Gary?
None at this time.
Okay. I will close the public hearing then. And then we're going to jump down to the bottom of the agenda. We will move to item 13, conditional use for 1250 Almond Street. Is there a motion and a second? So moved. Motion and a second, Mr. Nar.
Good evening, President Yoders and members of council. I bring before you a conditional use request from CARES of Central PA. The location is at 1250 Almond Street. It is within the R2 zoning district. The current use is a place of worship. The proposed use is to locate an adult training facility within the church. The maximum capacity will be 25 individuals, a staff of 9 personnel with a total of 34 individuals that'll use the facility. In accordance with Article 13-3305 Bolag 8, places of worship, including educational uses within the R2, require a conditional use hearing. Conditional uses are a permitted use with the requirements for public hearing and given the city the ability to place reasonable conditions on the use if they so desire. Both the city's planning commission and city council's decisions shall be based on the 7 criteria and standards, which are compatibility, purpose, suitability, accessibility, serviceability, applicability, and health, safety, and welfare. Attached, you have the applicant's response to the 7 criteria and a letter of intent along with 4 plans. This was reviewed by the City Planning Commission and made a positive recommendation with no need for any conditions to be placed on this. I do have a representative, I believe, online, and I can answer any questions at this time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Nar. Are there any comments or questions from members of council on the conditional use? Okay. Hearing and seeing none, then Mrs. Frank on the motion for item 13, please.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Mrs. Mealy,
yes,
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes, motion passes 7-0. And then we'll move to item 14. We have a land development for 3341 Wahoo Drive. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Mr. Nar.
Yes, what I bring before you is a land development request from the Lycoming County for the coroner's building. It's located at 3341 Wahoo Drive. The current land use is an existing building with off-street parking. It is located within the MH Heavy Manufacturing Zoning District. The proposed plan is to construct an addition to the existing structure with off-street parking. The addition is 5,124 square feet to the existing structure of 7,798 square feet for a total of 12,922 square foot. The Williamsport Area Water Authority development would have access off of Wahoo Drive. The proposed development does have both sewer and water. Lycoming County development would have access off of Wahoo Drive. The proposed development does have both sewer and water provided by the Municipal Sewer and Water Authority. Will serve letters we do have in place. The plan was reviewed by the city engineer, Eric Smithgall of the Stormwater Authority. The plan was reviewed by Lycoming County Planning, made positive recommendation for your approval. You do have attached copies of their comments. The City Planning Commission also reviewed this with the plan and made a positive recommendation. And at this time, I do have representatives here and I can answer any questions if you would like.
Thank you, Mr. Nar. And I'll open the floor for our representatives from the county. I know the architect is actually here, has some renderings they can walk us through here really quick. So I'd be happy to yield the floor to them to kind of walk us through that and provide any additional commentary. Welcome and thank you for being here. I know you came a couple hours, so we're excited to see you.
Well, it's an honor to work for the county on their building that we've, I guess, been looking at this for a long time, right? Yes. So and just to add things to what Gary has said, this, and I'll just quickly go through some of the plans here. We could only get this for. Okay.
Maybe.
Mr. Kiesling, while
Yes.
we're waiting for that
Yeah.
to get started, if you wouldn't mind just elaborating a little bit about the benefit that your
Okay.
office is going to have for a permanent home.
I don't think it's any secret to everyone in the community that this has been a long, hard, work in progress since the original feasibility study was done in 2012, where we identified the needs with 5 hospitals in the county and 1 morgue, which we share use with Williamsport Hospital. And it's been very tight quarters frequently prior to COVID. And then when COVID, the pandemic came through, things went from bad to extremely worse, to the point where funeral homes did not have adequate space to hold decedents. And we were forced to contact PEMA and bring in refrigerated units and store deceased in those units. And so it really drove home the point that we really need more capacity, both locally as well as regionally. So my plan for all these years has been to try and get a facility here to service Lycoming County as well as working with the coroners through mutual aid agreements in the area to be able to help them out, because other counties are also in similar situations. They don't have 5 hospitals like we do, but they also can have bad things happen at the very spur of the moment and, run out of resources available. So this would be not only a local resource, but it would help us regionally. And once the building's under roof and we're moving along with construction, my conversations will continue with the forensic pathology folks that we work with in Allentown. Because currently we're transporting decedents to Allentown every time an autopsy is necessary. We have no autopsy services available here in this county since 2008. So hopefully those conversations will then bring us a forensic pathologist into this area. We've got grant applications out to approximately $4 million worth of additional equipment, including a CAT scanner, which will be able to help us with determining cause of death without autopsies in some cases where people's religious beliefs or they just don't want their loved ones to be autopsied. We may be able to answer those questions with a CAT scan versus full autopsy. So the building will be well suited to handle our current day-to-day operations and well into the future. So that's the whole gist of it. So any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So we got it. Glenn Lichtenwaller from W2A Architects. So with me is my civil engineer, Laura Eberly. And what we have here on the screen is the first floor plan. To the right-hand side, you will see that is the existing building that will have garage space, as well as that's the body receiving area that they'll be able to pull through. It's a drive-through situation where doors on either side of the building. So all of the coroner's building existing vehicles will be in this building, as well as some of the special needs trailers that he has. To the front of the building is the main entrance. That's to the top of the sheet, the right-hand top of the sheet, where that's the office space for the coroner. That will include a small waiting area for the public toilets. There'll be staff toilets and locker rooms. There will be a conference room for them to meet with the public. And then the office area will have two offices for the coroner and the deputy coroner, as well as an open office area for the rest of the staff. There's also file space in that area. Above that office space will be an area for storage, as well as a mechanical space, and that will be accessible through a stair that's in the garage area. And that's a new attic space that's going to be added. Then we get into the crux of the project is the body lab, where that consists of autopsy space, where we have 2 autopsy stations, decomposed autopsy space, where that is 1 station there for autopsies, and at adjacency to those autopsy space are body coolers, as well as a body freezer. And then there are support spaces on the north side of that wing, as well as areas for a future imaging suite, and an area for evidence and narcotics storage that is very important to keep in a secure area. On the second floor, there is that second floor is a mechanical attic, and that is through a stair in the stairwell to the west side, excuse me. I will show you now some renderings. This is looking from east to west. The existing building is in the closest to you. The addition is further away. The existing parking lot will be restriped. The pavement that is there is primarily will be upgraded, mill and overlaid, and there'll be some resurfacing and actually regrading in that paving area. There will one thing that in this rendering, it shows a generator, and that is also something that the building will provide emergency systems throughout this facility, so it can be used 24/7 in the case of crisis, situation that you may have. A rendering then looking the other way. This is looking, of course, at the addition and looking towards the garage area and office area. This is the front view of that, where the existing building is to the left. The addition is to the right. The building will have some a brick facade at the main entrance, as well as it will continue onto the new building addition. The rest of the building will be a insulated metal panel building with also an insulated metal roof. The existing building will be repainted, recoated, as well as there'll be a new roof placed on that building. Another view towards from the east to the west, just showing the exiting out of the garage areas. And that is the presentation that I have for today. Any questions? I mean, Laura can talk about the site a little bit.
Just to give you a quick overview from the site perspective, once again, Glenn mentioned, my name is Laura Eberly. I work for Ruther Bowen Engineering. I was the site civil engineer on the project. Just from a traffic perspective, there are two existing driveways, a one-way in and a one-way out. We are going to maintain those driveways, so we're not changing the access points to the site or the traffic pattern through the site. We did do some upgrades so that we would have adequate access to the garage space at the rear of the existing building. And as Glenn mentioned, we're restriping the parking lot. We're going to mill and overlay. From a stormwater management perspective, there's only an increase in impervious cover of about 3,000 square feet on the site because the expansion to the building is being placed over top of an existing parking lot for the most part that's on the site. That increase in impervious cover is going to be managed by a new rain garden proposed on the site and some improvements to an existing stormwater management basin that was already in the southwest corner of the site. So as far as we know, we've responded to all of the comments that we've received and ask if there's any other questions.
Thank you all very much for the overview, walking us through the renderings. Chuck, great to hear that this is gonna align with kind of what's going on in your department right now and where you're at. It's been a long road long time coming for you, and we're glad to see it come to fruition. It's exciting, very much so. Any comments or questions on the land development from members of council?
Adam, I do.
Yes, Mrs. Katz.
I am really excited for you. I mean, you have traveled all over the county looking for a home over the last, I think, 10 years. I mean, we saw you going in so many different directions. This is really, I know you've got to have a sigh of relief at this point. When are you expected to have this up and running?
I think we're probably looking at fall we'll start sometime in June, July this year. Probably not actually moving in fully operational till August, September of next year. That's, there's a lot of stuff dependent on acquisition of materials and supplies that we need and, specialized equipment. for this type of facility, and some of that stuff there's a lag time in getting those items in place. So, but hopefully target maybe August, September next year.
Fantastic. And I'm assuming from some of the equipment that you talked about, that you're going to be doing upgrades in several other areas with your equipment.
Yes, absolutely.
It'll
and-
make your job easier.
Oh, absolutely. Instead of having a cooler where we have 2, 3, and 4 body, racks, we're able to, go to a single body unit where, we don't have to have lifting capacity and stuff to be able to, and just physical strength to move deceased to multiple levels. So that in itself will be a huge safety factor in the whole operation once we get here and operational. So.
And did I hear you say something about metal siding? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, it's insulated metal.
Insulated.
Structure itself, yes.
Okay.
Most of the new construction, the roof will all be insulated metal.
And everything is copacetic with stormwater and the water authority, right? Because the building that was in existence, what was there? Do you know what was there?
Well, it was PennDOT's, their facility used for inspection and emissions testing. And then Penn College bought the building and was using it for automotive technology training. And so the county bought it from Penn College.
So Penn College now, do you know if they've moved that operation? Because that was a good operation for the kids.
I think that's all moved to main campus, I believe. So, I mean, I think the automotive technology training is still there. I think they just moved everything down
Fantastic.
to the main campus.
So you should be in your new home either the beginning of next year, early next year from gathering, right? What the information?
We're using the garage right now, but we're going to be evicted. Once the construction starts, we're trying to work out a way where we can at least continue to use maybe the south part of the garage area to hose, keep the vehicles in out of especially the weather during the winter months. That's been our biggest struggle when you have vehicles that need to be ice chipped off of them, snow cleared before we can respond on calls. That's been a challenge for 25 years. And so this will, hopefully we can use that south part of the garage, keep that functional for us in the winter months. The rest of the time, we'll probably keep the trucks over there, but outside the building in a, secure area.
I thank you very much and congratulations to
All right, thank
your
you.
new home.
Ms. Smealy?
Yeah, just some, I'm assuming, Gary, that they have ample space on this parcel to meet the 10% landscaping requirement with the parking lot.
That is correct.
They're doing work on it.
It currently
and-
is based off of the structure that they have. They're utilizing most of that already. So the green space is going to stay with the adding of some of the rain gardens. Well, it'll be well over the 10%.
Okay, yeah, and that's what I'm seeing then is right. Some BMPs on the site. Which will
It's a pretty
hopefully-
big facility up there.
Yeah, and it looks pretty, I'm seeing sort of on the fringes, some best management practice sort of things, some stormwater management elements. Excellent. What, is it just rain gardens that we're doing up there or what else do you have?
We also are expanding and improving the existing detention basin that was there. That detention basin, just by taking a look at it, must have been built many, many years ago. It just was a very small basin with, I believe it was a 15-inch pipe outlet. So not a lot of volume control or rate control. So we are expanding that basin and we are installing a new outlet structure to that basin. So the rain garden, some water will go to the rain garden first, and then it will discharge to the basin and then to the discharge swale where there's an existing discharge point.
Got it. And you said the impact is only an additional 3,000 square feet of paving anyway.
Right, right. So it's a relatively
Overall,
small
sounds like
increase.
we've got probably a net improvement to the site if we're
Right.
improving them. Right. Excellent. I think that's everything. It certainly is exciting to be getting a new facility and exciting, I suppose, to have it in the city. This is the first time I think I've ever talked about bodies during the city council meeting. So, but really interesting to hear about your operations and exciting to hear that they will be dramatically improved. on this. Thanks.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. Again, congrats. Excited to see this finally coming to fruition. Thank you both for being here, for kind of walking us through this. This is exciting stuff. Very much so. Miss Mealy, one last question.
I apologize. Yes,
No
one
worries.
last question. What's the estimated cost of construction on this? I'm assuming you don't have a firm number yet, but
At this point, we'll be going out for bids over the next 6 weeks.
you got it.
And there has been some estimating done at this point, but it's really something that I'm not at liberty to.
Well, that's fine.
mention.
I think I'm assuming it would be somewhat public information, perhaps in the paper.
It will
anyway.
be.
But
It's public bidding.
Yeah,
Yes.
but we've been talking in the city about the possibility of a public safety building and some other potential new constructions. I was just kind of interested to know what
Yes.
the roundabout estimate was
Yeah.
for the cost of building this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Miss Mealy. Any other comments or questions? Okay, here you can see none. Mrs. Franklin, item 14, please.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes,
Ms. Mealy,
Yes,
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you all again for being here. Appreciate your work on this. All right, we'll jump back up to item 6, Mrs. Frank, and this is to remove from table.
Resolution of the City of Williamsport lease real property from RVTA located at 100 West Third Street, 144 West Third Street, 127 West Fourth Street, and 11 West Church Street, all in Williamsport, Pennsylvania.
Is there a motion and a second to remove from the table?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Mrs. Frank on the motion to remove from table?
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Ms. Mealy,
yes,
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion to remove from table passes 7-0. So Mayor Slaughter's not going to make it tonight, so I'll cover this for him. So this is just simply renewal of the lease that we are currently under to rent these facilities from RVTA. This certainly correlates with the next item on the agenda as well. We had a little bit of brief discussion about it last week, but not so much beyond that. And there was some final information came back 2 Wednesdays ago, the day before last meeting, which is why we tabled it. So I'll open the floor for any kind of discussion, comments. From what I saw, everything looked pretty okay. I don't think there's any kind of real big changes, issues in this, but I'll open the floor for others, comments, questions on this. Miss Mealy.
no, sorry,
Oh.
that wasn't a question. That was an expression of disbelief that I can't get the document to load on my computer.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
All right. No comments or questions. Mrs. Frank, then on item number 6.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
no,
Ms. Mealy,
Yes,
Mr. Bider,
No.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 5-2. We'll move to item 7, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution for transfer of real property to River Valley Transit Authority.
Is there a motion and a second to remove from the table?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Mrs. Frank on the motion to remove from the table.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Ms. Mealy,
yes,
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion to remove from table passes 7-0. Kind of correlating with number 6. So this is to transfer the 4 listed properties in the item number 6, 100 West Third, 144 West Third, 127 West Fourth, and 11 West Church Street from the city to River Valley Transit Authority. We kind of talked a little bit about this 2 weeks ago. These have federal interest in them as we've kind of started the process of or have transitioned RVTA to being a legal authority rather than a city department. Part of that process is them obtaining ownership of properties that they occupy and or have federal interest in them. And so that's just part of the evolution of that process. We tabled this 2 weeks ago because there was a couple of final things that came through related to like reverter clause, that kind of stuff, which at this moment I feel pretty comfortable with. There were a couple of things that were kind of flagged since then that we've identified with Trade and Transit 100 West 3rd Street and the Church Street Garage at 11 West Church Street, related to deeds, that kind of stuff. With 100 West 3rd Street, the meets and bounds description of the deed needs to be revised to be consistent with the entire parcel identified. And then with 11 West Church Street, the deed needs to be revised to incorporate all of the parcels of land that they lay under that are owned by the city specifically. And kind of looking at that and talking with legal counsel, they're aware of that. I think, and for everybody's context here, I've chatted quickly with RVTA with Todd. He's aware of the items that were uncovered over the past couple of weeks, and is aware of what needs to be done to rectify them, and of the, the importance of doing that. And has relayed to me that they will be finalizing that and cleaning that up and taking care of that. So I'll open the floor for comments or questions from others, but I think with a conditional approval of cleaning that up and final approval from the solicitors, I think it's knowing what those issues are. I think it's a prudent idea to do that transfer, to continue that process and make sure that RVTA is in a good position kind of going forward, from a number of different reasons. We're still kind of working through some stuff related to RVTA Public Works that we passed 2 weeks ago. That is in process as we speak as well. So we're kind of flushing out those details at the moment, but quick little overview of a couple of things that popped up the past couple of weeks, but I'll open the floor for comments, questions from other members, any kind of concerns. Chris Kenyon's on Zoom from McCormick that's been representing us on this, if there's any questions related to anything I just said. So I will open the floor for comments from members of council. Okay. Yep, Ms. Mealy.
I can make one. I guess we addressed this briefly in the finance committee, and I think I just want to be crystal clear that these are properties that were purchased by River Valley Transit when it was under the city with the assistance of federal and state transit funds. I don't know to what extent you covered this last time. I apologize.
A little bit, but this is valuable, please. Yes.
Right. And the important thing to understand is that these, in a very real way, never belonged to the city of Williamsport, except in the sense that River Valley Transit formed at that point a part of the city of Williamsport. So I think all of us have struggled with, but this process has taken a while, and that's partly because it's taken a while to untangle a number of threads here, partly because it has taken us as a city administration and a city council a while to come to terms with the idea that, divorce is difficult. And setting up whose assets are whose and all of that takes some time. And I think it took some time for us to be comfortable with the concept of letting go of these pieces of land that theoretically belong to the city, but practically speaking, still belong largely to the Fed. There are millions of dollars in state and federal funds invested in this building, the building next door, the Church Street Transportation Center. And those are buildings that the city, for a number of reasons, has no real interest in either owning or maintaining. And so, I feel perfectly comfortable with making these buildings RVT's problem, frankly. And I think there are still some sites that the city has a little bit more of a vested interest in. There's still some discussions there, but I think it's important that the public understands that these buildings are buildings that have an explicit transportation purpose, that were established with an explicit transportation purpose, and that need to continue as an element of the transit arm of our community, and consequently will no longer reside with the city. That said, we have protected ourselves somewhat in the sense that when and if all of the federal funding and state funding is exhausted, all of it has been fully depreciated. These parcels could become the property of the city if at that point we want them to be the property of the city. And I think that's an important point. We may never want them to be the property of the city, but if we did, we could.
Yes.
So we've done as much as we can, I think, to protect our interests, our financial interests in this issue.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, and to be clear too, the odds are pretty high that that decision is going to be made if and when that happens by people that aren't sitting here, right? I mean,
So we've tried to give those people
Yeah.
as much freedom as
They
we
have-
can to make
future
a good
future
decision.
council has the option,
Right.
should it be in the best interest of the city in 15, 20 years when that happens.
Right.
And having the option is, I think, the really important component of that, whether it is right or not, who knows what, a lot can change in 20 years, but
Mhm.
yes,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Ms. Mealy.
Mhm.
Any other comments, questions on this? I know we're still working through some aspects related to the East Third Street portion that we kind of kickstarted 2 weeks ago. Whether the combination of Elm Park, Public Works, Salt Shed, I think you kind of referenced that a little bit as well, Ms. Mealy. That's still being flushed out. We have some work to do on that part of it. And we're definitely going to do that and work through that. But yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm not seeing any other comments or questions. So Mrs. Frank, I guess on the motion for item 7.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
No,
Ms. Mealy.
Yes.
Mr. Bider.
No.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 5-2. We'll move to item 8, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution Real Estate Reduction, Joanne Coder.
Is there a motion and a second?
So move. Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Mackey, I'll welcome you to the podium, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. This is a resolution recognizing the reassessment the county did for Joanne Coder's property over on Mocker Street. People will remember the fire that happened back in December that required several departments to put out. This is recognizing them getting reduced by about $100,000 and relieving them of several tax dollars.
All right. Any comments or questions on this? We didn't have anything go to committee this week. So any details, questions we'll have to flush out here.
Pretty cut and dry.
Yep. Yeah, great. Mrs. Frank, on the motion for item 8.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
a definite yes.
Ms. Mealy.
Yes.
Mr. Bider.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. We'll move to item 9.
Resolution authorizing business privilege tax settlement.
Is there a motion and a second?
So move. Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Mackey.
This was discussed privately in executive session. I will make no further comments on the matter as we've already discussed it, and we cannot discuss it due to the confidentiality of tax matters.
Any comments or questions? Yeah, okay. You can see none. Mrs. Frank on the motion.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi.
Yes.
Mrs. Katz.
Yes,
Ms. Mealy.
Yes.
Mr. Bider.
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
We'll move to item 10, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution authorizing engineering services by Livick Civil LLC for traffic signal improvement on Little League Boulevard.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Scott, welcome, sir, and good evening.
Good evening, Council President Yoder, members of council. I've got to present resolution authorizing professional civil engineering services by Livick Civil LLC for traffic signal improvements on Little League Boulevard. This project will involve the modernization and replacement of 2 traffic signals on Little League Boulevard located at Market Street intersection and Hepburn Street intersections. The total lump sum not to exceed cost is $144,450. This is broken down into 2 tasks. Task 1 consists of preliminary and final design and bidding for cost of $78,791. And task 2 consists of construction inspection for a fee of $65,659. This project is part of the PennDOT Green Light Go grant program, which required a 20% match, and these engineering fees will be put towards that match.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Scott. Any comments or questions, Ms. Mealy?
I thought I'd understood that we were doing Pine Street and Hepburn Street. Don't get me wrong, I'm very excited about Market Street. I thought that that was not on the table initially, but we have the funds for that, we believe, and all right, that's excellent. Okay, just wanted to make sure that that I had gotten it wrong the first time. Thanks.
All right. Any other comments, Mr. Allison?
I just have one question. I think it's page 1 under the project summary. The last paragraph says, Livick assumes that the turn lane and traffic signal can be constructed utilizing standard PATA figures and PennDOT, so forth and so on. If they are deemed to be required, an amended scope and fee will be negotiated. Is that negotiated with PennDOT or negotiated with the city? Anywhere in those negotiations, or if they should come to pass?
Yeah, they're talking about PATA, Pennsylvania typical application figures. That's usually for traffic control is what that's for. Of course, PennDOT Pub 213 is a design manual they're referencing. I think they're saying an amended scope of fee would be negotiated with us, it's not PennDOT.
Ms. Mealy?
Just, I guess, one final question. I'm excited about the ADA ramps because I don't believe we have those at the Market Street intersection, especially right now. We are also contemplating pedestrian signalization, I'm assuming, as part of both of these, right? Walk
Yes.
signals. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's-
Great. Excellent. And that takes care of a huge amount of my concern then.
There's new handicap ramps plus the the stop sign,
Yeah.
counter and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. And it looks like also a little bit more traffic control with the turn lanes and everything. So, yeah.
Yes.
Great. I assumed that the traffic signal design incorporated pedestrian elements, but
Yes.
it occurred to me that I probably should check.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other
Um,
comments?
Adam, I have a question. Mr. Scott, it says here, and I want to clarify, okay? If I'm reading correctly, which I'm having a hard time tonight, you're doing Little League Boulevard and Hepburn Street, and you're doing Market Street and Little League, right? You're not touching Pine Street.
That's correct. It's Market Street intersection and Hepburn Street intersection.
Okay,
That's what the grant was for. The Green Light Go grant was for those 2 intersections.
well, I think we're all excited about Market Street because you go to work that way all the time. People running across that street at times can be very dangerous. So I'm happy to hear that. Pine Street was never on this then?
Not that I'm aware of.
Pardon me, I didn't hear what you said.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
I thought that it was.
I swear That's three of us now who feel like we talked
Yeah.
about Pine Street and Hepburn last time, because I was like, we're not dealing with Market Street.
Yeah,
Market Street's impossible there.
yeah,
Okay. I mean, I am happy with the way that it is. I'm
Yeah.
not complaining, but I'm not the only person who remembers it that
Yeah.
way. Okay, got it.
I'll certainly double check. I'm pretty certain this Green Light Go grant was for these two intersections.
Okay. I mean,
I don't know about you,
pass
Liz,
a resolution that says that, and that's how it is, then great. But we might want to check, all of us, I think, remember
Yeah.
us discussing Pine and Hepburn last time.
I think, I question it only from the standpoint of the safety of foot traffic that goes up Pine Street for parking and everything else that is above even Little League. And that's, I thought that was going to be done. So yeah, if you could check onto that, because I really thought it was Pine Street. And I think, Liz, you were upset with Market Street not being said at that point.
I was, yeah, that's why I was like, man, what was I all worried about last
Yeah.
time? Yeah, I don't, well, anyway, check into it. If it is possible to switch things, I share your concerns about all of the signalized intersections on Little League, Bonnie, because there's not good pedestrian signalization at any of them. But I do think that Market would be the absolutely most key of all of them. So,
I
you
think
know,
that is the
the
most
way that we-
important.
yeah, if there's a way that we can make sure that Market's included, then I would happily give up one of the other intersections to deal with that.
Yeah.
Because that is the one that's legitimately likely to be dangerous, but,
Same here. I agree with you.
okay. All right. Okay, good. All right, thanks.
all right. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I guess my only question would be, we don't, this is stupid, but we don't need to table it in case we've got the wrong two intersections on here, right?
I mean, is there a time crunch on this bill?
No, it's
Okay.
not a pressing. As you can see the schedule, this is a, wow, year and a half long,
Okay.
project schedule. This won't be built until summer of next year.
Okay,
Yeah.
It takes that long for design and
Yeah.
permitting with PennDOT.
But I'd vote that we pass it, and then if it needs to be, pass it in the hopes that this is the accurate, these are the accurate intersections.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
If it needs to be amended, we come,
the resolution calls out like specific intersections. So
Yeah.
if it's found that
right, we can always.
that
amend it.
that there's additional intersections that were not included, we should really update and
Right.
revote on a resolution anyway. So I don't have an issue passing it, but
Yeah, I think we pass it, and then if it turns out that there's something inaccurate, we'll have to come back.
you're okay with that, Bill?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay.
being a little new here, I
Yeah, no,
apologize.
No worries.
I don't know all the backgrounds of all the grants yet. Just kind of, this one came up and
No, none of this is a commentary on you. I think
Yeah.
it's just,
No,
you
no,
know,
no.
you have those moments, especially when you have a few too many things on your plate where you're like, was it really? I don't.
but I'll certainly check if these are the right intersections. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, excellent. Any
Okay.
other comments or questions? Okay, hearing and seeing none, then Mrs. Frank on the motion for item 10.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes,
Ms. Mealy,
Yes,
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Bill. We'll move to item 11, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution authorizing an amendment to the contract for professional services to CEDACOG.
Is there a motion and a second?
So move. Second.
Motion and a second. Skip, welcome, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, President Yoder and members of council. We're bringing forth to you a resolution this evening for a second amendment to the 2019 annual action plan, which involves the CV funds that had been allocated to Newberry Park for the splash pad development. And that had all been included with a grant application that was put forth to DCNR, which we did not receive. So in light of that, we're proposing that we do a substantial amendment and involve CEDACOG to do that so that we can use those funds to improve Newberry Park minus the splash pad. There'll be other improvements such as soccer fields, such as pickleball courts, such as walking trails handicapped accessible parking, the potential for restroom facilities, those types of things, because of the limited funding that we have, which is about a little over $500,000. The grant that we brought forward about maybe 2 or 3 months ago, 4 months ago, was for over $1 million. We didn't receive the additional monies. So the thought was that we would use the funds we have to get us those amenities into that park, minus the splash pad. Cedar Cog has to do a substantial amendment, so we're in compliance with HUD regulations. The cost of the substantial amendment, the environmental review process, and the labor standards, it's a total of $10,800. Those funds will come from the CDBG program, not from city general fund dollars. I'll answer any questions that you may have. Jamie Schroeder is on Zoom. She can also answer any specific questions.
Ms. Mealy.
So I guess just so I understand, how much money are we putting into Newberry Park, and what exactly, what improvements are we currently making if we're not making the splash pad improvements?
Well, the exact design has not been completed, Ms. Mealy. The thought process is it'll include pickleball courts. It'll include a youth soccer field. It'll include parking, in particular handicap parking. It'll include some walking areas that'll be handicapped accessible, some benches, some trash disposal type things, maybe a playground activity or two, and then a restroom facility if we can do it and make it fit within the budget that we have.
And what is the budget that we have, I guess? Sorry.
The
that was-
budget's a little over $500,000.
Okay, got it. All right. And so that $500,000, I mean, Cedar Cog is obviously not doing the design. They're simply doing the reporting components of it.
Right now, they're just doing the substantial amendment, which is a requirement of HUD, so that we can reallocate the money from splash pad to Newberry Park improvements.
Okay, and the substantial amendment can happen without us having a firm plan in mind?
It can happen without the firm plan, yes.
Okay, got it. So this is the first step that we should be taking for dealing with the reallocation of the funds within Newberry Park. And then at that point, we will have $490,000 to take for improvements to the park. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
When will we be getting that firm plan?
Soon as we get the substantial amendment completed, then we'll make a decision as to whether it is something that the city engineer can do or whether we have to go out to bid for engineering services.
Okay. And so we're got it. I'll admit that in some ways, I think that probably a splash pad would have been, we might have overextended ourselves with the splash pad in that park anyway. Yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my head around how much we can accomplish there with 500,000. Anyway, okay, thanks.
Adam, I have a question.
Sure. Go ahead, Mrs. Katz. But she muted herself. Bonnie, I think you might be muted. There you go.
I'm up now. Skip, are you going to discuss getting grants? I know you're going through with Cedar Cog, but we do have a grant writer at this point that maybe can get some funding, go after recreational funds, if she has access to some of that to accomplish what we would like to see in Newberry. Now, knowing Newberry Park, you're talking a youth soccer field and you're talking pickleball. There's still playground equipment there. How is that? How is the playground equipment there? Is that still in pretty good shape?
When I was there to look at it, the couple times that I've met with members of the community at Newberry Park, the equipment itself looks in pretty good shape.
So therefore, you're going to be, where are you going to put the pickleball and the soccer? And on the right-hand side, when it's like a U-turn?
The pickleball courts are projected, I say projected, to be located where the bocce ball courts are currently located, which aren't being utilized at all. The soccer field would run across the field, yeah, in the green space that's there right now. There's a lot of open space, so it's just a matter of laying it out, and someone with an engineering background will be able to do a much better job than what I can visualize, but there is adequate space to do both of those. There is also adequate space on the sketch that was put together to put probably 10 to 12 additional parking spaces, 3 or 4 of them to be handicapped accessible.
Yeah, because there is no handicap accessibility, from what I remember anyhow. And I was just curious where you're going to put all this, and you're right. It's up to a better engineer to work on this, and you're right. The bocce ball was, what it at the time was, oh no, an okay idea, but it's not something that a lot of people participate in, and I think you'll have more with pickleball. And of course, youth soccer is so big in the area at this point. So, I guess I was a little concerned about, is there going to be enough room that you're not crossing paths?
Now, there's adequate space, and then if with the soccer fields, if I believe I've been informed that 1 or 2 of the churches locally do hold volleyball tournaments there for their weekday sessions with the youth, they would still be able to put up their nets and still have those activities. So we're trying to make it as multi-purpose as we can.
That's a great idea. Now, the last question I have for you is, you said you're looking into.
Bonnie, I think you muted yourself again. Bonnie.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Another screen popped up. I'm sorry. Skip, from what we understood with doing the splash pad, we were told there was no water facilities there for that. So how are you going to incorporate restrooms?
Well, there is water facilities going to the Lions Club facilities. So there are water and sewer capabilities located on the property so that we could tap into that, but we haven't determined that use, or whether if we do a restroom, we even need to have those capabilities. It could be just a portable facility that doesn't need sewer or water access.
Okay. I was just curious because I didn't know whether the Lions Club, do they still own that building?
Actually, they rent that building from the city.
Oh, okay. And are they still paying rent?
As far as I know, yes, ma'am.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you very much, Skip.
Ms. Mealy.
I just wanted to point out a couple of things. Certainly if the bocce ball courts aren't being used, I would support them being repurposed as something that the neighborhood might use. Pickleball courts, I think, would be used. I would also say, I think there are a lot of children in that neighborhood, and it might be better off to do something that would be more child amenable. And that I don't know why I remember this so very precisely, but I was on the Recreation Commission when I very first got elected to council. And one of the first recreation meetings I attended was at Newberry Park. This would be 15 years ago, when the equipment was relatively new. It had been put in that year or the year before. Which is to say, I think that recreation equipment officially times out at about the 15-year mark. So that it may be that we should just make it a priority to replace that the playground equipment that's already in the park, instead of looking at adding other amenities. The one thing I would say from a parks perspective is that I do often see, an open field seems like wasted space, but depending on how it's constructed, you can do anything there, which in some ways is more useful than something that's kind of pinned down to a specific use. So just something to consider. I'm trying to remember. I feel like I have one other. The one other thing that I would say is obviously I support, the addition of handicap parking, I think, and making the park more accessible is clearly desirable. I would encourage us not to add further parking. Newbury is designed as a neighborhood park. The idea of a neighborhood park is that it is a park that people walk to. And I don't think that giving up green space to parking is.
The space that we were looking at was going to give us about 8 to 10 spaces, about half of them to be marked as handicap spaces. So we're not looking to add a tremendous amount of parking. Right now, everything is either along the alley or parking along the street. What the concept is that from the Lions Club building going towards the playground equipment on the one side, we do some angled parking for about 8 to 10 cars. Again, that's all concept. Everything we're discussing this evening is all in concept. We just need to get this substantial amendment approved so that we can then reallocate those funds and then lay out a plan that works and bring it back to you for your approval.
Got it. Yeah, I think this is sometimes the only opportunity we have for input, so I'm offering
Yes,
mine.
ma'am. Good. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Mackey?
Again, I know the budget is limited. If I still firmly believe that some sort of lighting in our parks is needed. And I know that that's probably going to be down on the list, but especially if we're talking about a soccer field, which Williamsport desperately needs. I mean, the ability to use that in the evening hours too, as well as keeping the park lit at night, could really help reduce any type of nefarious activity that may go on there if it's not lit. So, and again, I don't know anything about lighting and how much it costs. I just know that I would still like us to
We will
look at these.
definitely look at it,
So-
Mr. Mackey. And then that may be a way to use Valerie, Ms. Vessler to try to find some other grant funding so that we might be able to put in some of those other amenities. Right now, we're just dealing with the money that we have because we have to spend it. We're on the clock.
I understand that. I just wanted to make sure that thought is still out there in the world, so we're not overlooking it.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Mealy?
Yeah, I would agree with you, John, that I think lighting and just that gives our parks a longer use, especially in the winter time when the days are short. I would guess there are grants out there for things specifically like that. So that might be something that we should go after as a separate thing. Cause yeah, I'm guessing you're looking at $100,000 to light the park. And that probably we could perhaps get a grant to add additional lighting even in the vicinity of it or something like that, which would be kind of a double benefit.
Any other comments or questions? Two quick ones, Skip.
Yes, sir.
And if I'm repeating, I had to jump around during a couple of things during the conversation. So if I'm repeating something, my bad, just tell me that. So is this all based on direct feedback from the neighborhood, or is this,
We have had 3 or 4 different meetings with one specifically with members of the Lions Club.
Okay.
And 2 of them with neighborhood individuals that live around the park who have come up with some of these ideas for the pickleball courts and some of the other items along with the city administration.
okay,
So it hasn't just been, we're picking items out of the sky. There has been discussion with the neighbors to see what they would like to see.
okay. And then I'll get yelled at for this question by my daycare, but I'll ask it anyway. So is this the best location to put this funding? And I asked that, are there other parks that are in worse shape that we should be looking at? I think we've done a good job of spreading our resources around the past couple of years and really making investments in parks. And I, off the top of my head, I don't know if we have or have not missed something, but it came to my mind when you said the equipment was in pretty decent shape, that kind of stuff. And not to minimize anything that is being looked at, but just simply a question, because I know I'll get asked it from a
Well,
number of people as well.
The
So,
funding needs to be spent in a low to moderate income neighborhood,
yep,
of which Newbury qualifies.
okay,
And the Newbury Park has not had any upgrades or improvements in
Okay.
probably the 15 years that Ms. Mealy.
We put in those bocce ball courts between now and then.
okay.
Okay.
So,
I can't talk about
So
that.
based on the requirements of the funding, and based on where our parks are within applicable zones, this is at the top of the list.
Yes, yes, I
Okay.
would say that, yes.
Cool. Any other questions? All right, hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Frank on the motion for item 11.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes,
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Move to item 12, Mrs. Frank.
Resolution authorizing an agreement between the Williamsport Bureau of Fire and Harmonville Fire Company.
Is there a motion and a second?
So move. Second.
Motion and a second. Chief and Assistant Chief, welcome, gentlemen. Good evening.
Good evening, President Yoder, members of council. Before you use a resolution to purchase a 77-foot Quint fire truck. This will replace engine 3.1. We purchased it, or we purchased it. We put a bid in for 305,000. They were asking 325,000 for it. We went down this past Monday, looked at it. It's going to meet all of our needs. For that truck, it will be a reserve piece. It's as was mentioned, it's through Harmonsville Fire Company, which is in Plymouth Meeting outside of Philadelphia in Montgomery County. It's a 2007 Spartan Ferrara Quint. So that you know what a Quint is. A Quint is basically an engine, a fire engine with a ladder on top. It has 42,000 miles and is in impeccable shape for its age.
All right, any kind of questions, comments? We added this late, given the timing of kind of when everything happened and when you got clarification on stuff, and then kind of given, I think, if I understand right, Sam, the logistics of the replacement, the truck that's replacing, right? We're just, your goal is to minimize time down a truck, right?
Right. So as I explained to you earlier this
Yep.
week, when we discussed this, we were in contact with what's the name of the Hayward, Wisconsin purchased the current tower truck. They were adamant about getting it within, this week or early next week. We no sooner got everything that we needed to get done to get this on the agenda for tonight, when Chief Lucas got a text message from the chief up there saying, hey, we just got a foot of snow. Any way we can push this back a week or so.
Okay,
So,
that's all right.
um,
It still,
Yeah.
it still benefits your
Timing.
logistics and what have you.
absolutely. And just so you know, we do have the guys, we have 3 guys out and went to Zelienople to pick up our tower to take it out to Ohio for tool mounting. They'll bring it back, it'll get painted. Tentatively, we should have the new tower mid to late May.
Okay,
So, which is a lot better than what we were looking at before, which was the end of June.
yeah.
So,
So in the next month, logistics might be a little tricky, but in the next month here, you guys will be in a lot better shape, equipment truck wise than you have been for a couple of years, which
Absolutely.
is great.
Yep.
Which is great. Sorry, any comments or questions from members on the purchase? Okay. Here you see none, Mrs. Frank on the motion.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
Mr. Mackey.
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
yes,
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
We'll move to item 15, except for filing controllers report from January 2024, Brandon Park Commission from September 26th, 2023. Are these 2024, Janice?
2023.
Okay. January, February, March, and April as well of 2023. Shade Tree Commission from April 2023, Finance Committee from November 7th and December 5th, 2023. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Here you can see none. Mrs. Frank on item 15, please.
Mr. Allison,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Bider,
Yes.
Mr. Yoder.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Item 16, announcements. Our next regularly scheduled city council meeting will be held on Thursday, April 25th, 7 p.m. Upcoming meetings, Tuesday, April 16th at 6:30 p.m. is Historic Architectural Review Board. Wednesday, April 17th, 10 a.m. Blighted Property. Thursday, April 18th, 10:30 a.m. Zoning Hearing Board. Tuesday, April 23rd, 11:30 a.m. Public Safety, 1 p.m. Finance, 2:30 p.m. Public Works. Wednesday, April 24th, 9 a.m. Economic Revitalization, 11:30 a.m. Redevelopment Authority. Thursday, April 25th, 7 p.m. our next city council meeting. And I'll clarify something from Kevin. We did not actually have an executive session, so that's why I did not announce anything at the beginning of the meeting. We didn't have enough, the amount of people that didn't qualify for an executive session, just to clarify that for anybody that was listening or is like, what is going on? So one person, yeah. Yeah, one person, yeah, correct. But nonetheless, any comments from members of city council? Any comments from members of the administration? Any comments from members of the public? Mr. Keller? Come on up, sir. Welcome, and set my timer. You have 3 minutes, sir, per the rules. Welcome, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Ralph Keller, 203 U Street. If you haven't been by the park lately, I'm pleased to announce that they have the green grass down on the college field, finally. But they have a mess across the street. The entire parking area from Hughes to Adam is full of at least 5 trucks of sand, 5 tractor trailers or more of big bags of composite material, construction trailer, trash, rental equipment, and so on. They're cleaning it up now and destroying it, but there's still, looks like about a truck full of sand left. And what they're doing now is cleaning the sand up with a leaf blower, and it's not working very well. So I'm just asking, begging someone, be it codes, be it whoever, please make sure they clean up that mess, because the sand is right next to the storm drain. And if they don't do that properly, better than they are, all that's going to wash down the storm drain, either plug the drain, go in the Chesapeake Bay or something. I think the street sweeper would be appropriate, and you could do that and back bill the contractor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Any other comments from the public? Any comments from the news media? None of them are here. Take a motion a second for adjournment.
So moved.
Oops, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, my bad. Scott, yes.
No, I just want to touch base. April 8th, this past Monday, was the start of putting your brush out. So get it out right next to the curb. This Monday, we'll start going around the city for, I believe I put down 4 weeks this year. So we're going to be hitting that. I just wanted to put that out for anybody who has any questions. And yeah, to his point, I was up there at Lycoming Field. What they are putting down now is the black beads that go into the turf. There is a lot of bags there. I haven't talked to the contractors out there, but I kind of seen it done before. So hopefully that goes down very soon. So some of those parking is freed up for Little League's opening day on the 27th, I believe, for wall. So is there any questions? That's all I have.
All right. Thank you. Sorry, I thought you were going back to talk to Ralph. My bad. All right. Motion and a second for adjournment.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Meeting adjourned. Have a great evening, everyone.